Welcome to the channel. Today, I've got a pound of ground beef, which is still relatively inexpensive in the grocery stores compared to other cuts of beef. So today, I thought we'd make a gluten-free, cheesy hamburger skillet meal. Basically, for lack of a better term, it's homemade Hamburger Helper, but we're gonna make it from scratch. It's gonna be better than the box stuff, and you can't get the box stuff at the store that way in gluten-free. Anyway, so I'm Jamie with SavorySaver. I share gluten-free recipes, tips, tricks, and resources to make your gluten-free lifestyle easier. So let's move over to the stove and get started. So to start our skillet meal, I've put my ground beef in a deep skillet so I can actually add everything to the skillet and cook it. So I've got it over medium-high heat, so I'm gonna brown it and break it up into pieces as it goes. And before we keep moving with the ingredients and such, let's go over the pasta. So the gluten-free pasta I'm using today is tinkyata. It is a brown rice pasta, and we really like it. The texture is good, it cooks up well. I don't have the same issues with it breaking up quite as much as some of the other brands. Just depends. Leftovers, of course, tend to break up some, but I really like it. It doesn't get as mushy as some of the others. So for this recipe, you want to use a shortcut pasta, such as elbow macaroni, or you could use small shells, whatever you have. So I'm going to break this up. I like using this meat chopper. It does a good job of spreading out the meat and breaking it up at the same time. So I'm going to brown that for just a minute or two, and then we'll add a couple other things. I didn't use any grease in the pan because there's plenty of it in the beef for me, and this is a non-stick skillet. If you want to, you can add a little bit of oil at the beginning. But now that it's given out some of its grease, I want to add a couple more things. I'm going to add some onion. This is one small to medium onion chopped. If you don't want to use fresh onion, you'd use about a teaspoon of onion powder would probably work, but we would add that in just a couple minutes. So that's in there. I was going to add the garlic, but I think we'll wait for just a couple more minutes until it's browned a little more. You're going to want 2 to 3 cloves of garlic that has been minced. So let's brown this for a couple more minutes, and then we'll add the garlic. So my beef is pretty well broken up, so I'm going to switch over to my spoon at this point. And let's see if I think I need to drain this. This is all up to you, of course, depending on how fatty your beef is, or if you want to drain it. I think I will try to get some of that out. So I'm going to push everything to the side. Tilt the pan some and see how much is in there. Yeah, we can probably get rid of some of that. Take a paper towel and just sop some of that up. You could also just drain it into a jar or something if you wanted to go that route. You don't need to get all of it because it is flavor. But this is why I don't add oil all the time when I'm sauteing ground beef, because it just doesn't necessarily need it. Okay, I've drained the beef, so let's add the garlic. So 2 to 3 cloves of garlic, or half a teaspoon to a teaspoon of garlic powder would work. We just need to cook this for just a minute, so 30 seconds or so. Now let's add a little bit of seasoning. I'm going to add a teaspoon of paprika. You could use smoked paprika if you have it. That would work. I'm going to add a teaspoon of chili powder. I'm going to add about a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. Give it a stir. If you notice, my paprika is getting dark, which means it's getting older and I need to use it up. tends to darken as it gets older when it starts losing its flavor. Okay, I'm not gonna add any salt to this because I am using beef broth that was made from bouillon, and that's pretty salty. So we'll add more salt later if I need it. If you are using beef stock that doesn't contain any salt, you're probably gonna wanna start at like 3/4 of a teaspoon. All right, I'm gonna add about a tablespoon or so of ketchup. That's gonna give it a little bit of a tomato taste in the background. Just stir it around a little bit. Gonna add a little bit of sweetness, not much. Ketchup has usually corn syrup in it, so got a little bit of sweetness to it. Now we need to add our liquids. So I'm gonna add a cup of beef broth and 1.5 cups of milk. So in goes our broth. In goes our 1.5 cups of milk. And use whatever milk you like. I'm actually using about a cup of milk and a 1/2 cup of half and half, because the half and half is getting to the point where the expiration date's coming up, so I'm gonna use that. And basically what I did is, with that balance, it's gonna make it more like whole milk. So let's bring this up to a simmer, and then we'll add our pasta. All right, we're coming up to a bubble. It's just starting, so I'm gonna add my pasta. Got a 1.5 cups, again, of gluten-free macaroni. So let's give that a stir, and then we're gonna reduce it down to probably medium or so. You don't want it boiling over. You want it to be simmering good. So once it's mixed in well, go ahead and cover it. Reduce it down to about medium. Let's do that. You want it bubbling, so if you need to adjust it, go ahead. You want to cook it just until the pasta's done. So for this, it's going to be about 15 minutes or so. I'll probably start checking it early just to make sure, and then we'll go ahead and make it cheesy. So it's been cooking about 5 minutes or so, and it's boiling really, really fast, and we really just want it to simmer. We want the macaroni to cook, but we don't want it boiling so fast. So cut down your heat if you need to. Now I've got it down on about medium low. So adjust your heat as needed to make sure we're just at a really good simmer. So our pasta is all cooked. I just checked it, and I did turn off the heat. And if you find that while you're cooking it, your pasta water is drying up too fast, you can add a little bit more broth or a little bit more water. And give it a stir every once in a while just to keep everything moving. So now we need to add our cheese. So today I'm using mild cheddar. Last time I made it, I actually used sharp cheddar. So whatever you want an 8-ounce brick that's been shredded. You can try the bag stuff, but remember it usually has anti-caking stuff on it, so it may not be quite as creamy. So I've turned the heat off. The heat should melt everything. And I'm gonna put a little bit in at a time, just a handful or two. Stir it for a minute, and then I'll add the next one until all of it's been added and everything's melted. All right, let's add the rest of it. Now at this point, if you want, you could add a little bit of sour cream if you wanted to make it even creamier, about 1/2 cup. I don't think that I'm going to. So let's get this plated up and give it a try. Here's our gluten-free cheesy hamburger skillet meal that we made, or homemade Hamburger Helper. Let's give it a taste. I did add a little bit of cheese and parsley to the top just to give it a little bit of color. The pasta's cooked through, it's not mushy. The hamburger's broken up nicely and throughout the entire bowl. The salt amount is good. I did add a little bit of salt off camera because it needed it, but definitely hold off on the salt if you're using bouillon. This was a super easy recipe to put together. You saw that all we did was throw everything in the skillet, like if you were making the prepared version from the store. It really didn't take any longer, and we know what's in it. There's no extra preservatives that would be in the box to make it last longer. It's not powdered cheese, it's real cheese. Guys, I hope you give this recipe a try. Please leave me any comments below, and I hope to see you on the next video. Thanks for watching.